A very warm welcome to the new episode of Ink and Insights. This is your host, Sumit Sarma Samir. This is a Nepal-based podcast, and if you are interested in listening to the thought leaders from around the world, please subscribe to my channel. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Natalie Turner in my program today. Natalie is an experienced innovation specialist, having spent over 25 years working as a corporate innovation director, a business consultant, and entrepreneur. She has worked for and consulted with some of the world's leading organizations, including Cisco Systems, GSK, Leo Pharma Asia, as well, and the Singapore government, helping them build innovation systems, culture, and capabilities, as well as generating new ideas to help them grow their teams and businesses. As founder of the Ethno Network, based out of Singapore, she has made her passion for purpose and people-driven innovation practical, as well as inspirational to elevate people's thinking on not only what they can create, but how the mind, skill sets, and cultural environments that make everyday innovation happens. She has been featured in the Sunday Times, the British Airways in-flight magazine, Bloomberg TV, and many other media, and is an award-winning author of her book, Yes, You Can Innovate, and a contributing author to Unleash Your Voice, Powerful Public Speaking for Everyone. Natalie is the inventor of the 6 Eyes, a model that helps people measure their innovation strengths so that they can harness diversity and have a greater impact from new ideas. As an international keynote speaker, she has inspired audiences on the human side of innovation, the mindsets and skills we need to harness diversity, and has spoken on leadership, change, and purpose at some of the top speaking engagements in the world, including TEDx Singapore, Singapore Women's Congress, Harvard University, Blink Live, Innov's 8 Hours Bangkok, etc. It is such a pleasure to have you in my show, Natalie. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Sumit. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Natalie, can you share your journey into the world of innovation and entrepreneurship? How did all this started for you?
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it, when we look over our lives, I think, and in retrospect, it becomes clear. But I think if I sort of look back over time, there's always been a thread in my journey of curiosity and interest in new things, new ideas, new technologies, and pioneering. So I've always been in roles or organizations that involve some form of development, business development, pioneering, creating the new. So I suppose in terms of the different types of ways that has been expressed is I started my journey really in after finishing my master's degree at the London School of Economics. I worked for a very small boutique consultancy that specialized in looking at how technology was transforming education, markets for learning, markets for training. And that was really, I suppose, what really accelerated my interest in new technologies and change. And from there, I had a number of corporate roles. I worked in British Telecom, heading up internet strategy for new internet products. So that was very exciting on that cusp of change at the very beginning of internet service provision. And then I had a big corporate role before I started my own business back in 2006, which was as an innovation director in a large research firm, really responsible for working with big brands, helping them to come up with new propositions, design thinking, helping them to understand how to create ideas that were very human-centered, people-centered design. So they were some of the more significant, aspects of the journey, if you like.
Right. And what inspired you to write this book, Yes, You Can Innovate?
Well, that was interesting because, I think, part of the journey of my personal, my professional journey of moving from corporate to setting up the Ethno Network back in 2006 in London and then taking it to Singapore was I saw that a lot of the issues and challenges that organizations had was not just about getting ideas, but how you actually galvanize people and their different strengths, their different ways of thinking to be able to make new ideas happen. And so as part of that journey, I invented the 6 Eyes of Innovation. And then clients kept saying, oh, it'd be really good if you had a book that codified how to do this with lots of tips and tools and practical know-how. So that really is what inspired me to put pen to paper or to start typing and to really, bring everything together into a practical how-to book to demystify, what does it mean to be innovative, to make innovation very practical, very hands-on for people, and for people to really understand that we have different ways that we contribute our skill sets, our mindsets, our experiences to making new ideas happen. So that really was what inspired me.
Right, right. And in your book, you discuss the concept of everyday innovation. Could you explain what this means and why it's important?
Yeah, I think, oftentimes when we think of innovation, and even today, I think, it's still the same as it was maybe, back in 2006 when I started the business, is that we think of technology, we think of technological change, we think of research and development, we think of labs, of science, of people, in garages or laboratories coming up with new things and real new inventions. And I wanted to sort of demystify innovation and say, yes, that is innovation, but innovation is a lot more than that. And innovation in the everyday means, well, what does it mean to you in your job each day when you're trying to do new things? And how can you sort of appropriate and make innovation relevant to you no matter what you're doing? So you could be working in customer services or sales or marketing or different areas, design. You could be working in HR. You could be facilitating teams or a team leader or contributor. Everybody is having to innovate, and even more so these days, we're having to think quite differently about what we do, how we do it, how we contribute our own skill sets. So that's why I call it everyday innovation rather than just this big amorphous word that's quite scary for a lot of people. They think, oh, well, other people are being innovative. I'm just doing my job, my work. I'm just getting on with it. So that's the reason.
And do you feel that, the whole notion of everyday innovation adds more pressure to the individuals in their work?
I mean, I think if you could help people to understand, well, what does that mean to them? We have a lot of training programs, and it's the first thing that we get people to think about. What does it mean, firstly, to be innovative? And to ask people that question, and then say, okay, well, and what does it mean to you in your job, your context, your organization, and can you give some examples of that? And I think what that helps to do is to bridge. And actually, in a way, it sort of takes a bit of the pressure off, I think. It's like, oh, okay, actually, I probably am innovating and I never really saw it that way. Or, and particularly because so much of what we're doing now is digitalization, it's process innovation, it's service innovation, it's experience innovation. It's these things which are less about product and very tangible invention. They're more about how we do things and how we get the organization to be able to be, more efficient, more productive, to be able to bring the new things that they're creating into the world. So I hope anyway, that it doesn't put more pressure on people. I haven't found that to be the case. I think the people that I've worked with over the years have actually found it quite liberating, actually, and quite empowering. Because I think also people can often think that innovation is for other people, not for them. And they quite like the idea of being innovative, but they don't really know, well, what is that? What does it mean to me? So to suddenly to think, actually, I'm pretty innovative. I never saw myself that way before, is a mindset shift. And actually, it really then helps liberate that person's sort of confidence, their ability to do new things and to step into doing, to change, really.
Right, right. Can you also please, explain a bit on 6 I's, 6 model of innovation, 6 I's?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 6 I's of innovation is basically a circular model. And the reason it's circular is that a lot of the time when we think of a process, we think of it in steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, a linear type of approach. And I think that when we're doing new things, particularly, we are bouncing around a lot of the time. We're going backwards and forwards, we're iterating. But at the same time, there needs to be a journey, a process, a map, if you like, but not necessarily a linear one. So I made it as a circular model with circles in a circle. So we have 6 I's. They are identify with the mindset of curiosity. They are ignite with the mindset of creativity. Investigate with the mindset of critical thinking. Invest with the mindset of courage, implement with the mindset of commitment, and improve with the mindset of being clever. So we have 6 I's, 6 C's, if you like, and they're all held together with a circle of purpose. And I talk a lot about purpose and the importance of it, but purpose can be, it could be your own personal purpose, but it could be a project team's purpose or organizational purpose, but it holds together all of the I's, which have 2 little triangles that interlink purpose to each I. And those are very important as well, because they are about the processes that support each I and the cultural environment that enables it to happen. So, for example, we could take Ignite. A process for Ignite could be, brainstorming on a Friday afternoon or whatever. You get people together to look at challenges and, to come up with new and fresh ideas. But the cultural environment to encourage freedom of expression and free flow thinking has to be there. Otherwise, no one's going to contribute any ideas. Even if they've got ideas, they're not going to speak up. So we've got to look at all of these facets, of people, culture, process together. So that's what I attempted to do with the 6 I's, was to make a people-centered model for innovating.
Right, right. And in the middle of all these things, I think the purpose, as you highlighted, is most important, I guess, because it helps us to perhaps investigate into why we're doing certain things that we are doing, right?
Absolutely, yes. Because otherwise we can go charging off, can't we? Down or jump into some idea, and we haven't really thought it through. We haven't identified even if there is a challenge or an opportunity, or what the problem is that we're solving, or what the opportunity is that we're trying to explore. So the purpose really helps to anchor. And I think if you can get teams as well to really explore that together before they even jump into the journey, to say, okay, what are we really trying to do here and why? And what actually, if we think of it in a sustainability terms, which obviously is very, very important these days, what's going to be the impact of what we might be trying to do on people, on planet, on our performance as an organization, and really trying to hold very difficult, challenging questions and ideas together to really be able to get alignment and really help people to think that through. And I think that's really, really important more and more, I find, in the work that I'm doing.
Right, right. And what do you think are some of the misconceptions around the whole notion of innovations?
Well, I think, that one about innovation being for someone else, or innovation being just for the technologists of the world or the scientists in the labs, I think that's a big myth. I think another one is that innovation equates creative thinking. Now, I think creativity, obviously, one of the I's on the 6 I's, ignite, that ability to ignite an idea, to generate an idea, is very, very important in innovation, because we need novelty, we need new and fresh thinking, we need those new ideas. But it's not the only part of being innovative. And if I think of over time, particularly working in a lot of training and in development and helping with teams and to develop and help them see that implementation, for example, the ability to execute on an idea and make that idea happen, is as important as coming up with the idea in the first place. I think the implementers often think, oh, well, the innovative people are the igniters and I just do the work. I just make it happen. Whereas I say, no, innovation is creation of value out of something new, a new idea to you. And the value creation doesn't happen if there's no implementation. So I think really helping people understand that being innovative is a lot more than just being creative. It's also being good at investigating ideas. It's being good at investing. That's often one that's forgotten about a lot as well. We sort of think, well, we've come up with all those ideas, but then what happens? People have to say yes, they have to say no, they have to get funding, resources, whatever might be required to make the idea happen. And that's a very, very critical skill set. And it's a very different skill set to being creative. And this is, I think, the challenge of being innovative. And it needs the creativity, but it needs the discipline. And they're very, very different things. They're very different things. To let your mind be free. I mean, you're a writer as well, yeah? To let your mind really be free, and then to edit. They're very different. They're very different ways of looking at language. They're very different ways of looking at words and structure. But you need both. Otherwise, you're not going to have a book. You need the free flow, and then you need the structural thinking. So I think that's one of the big myths, the myth of innovation being just about creative thinking. But obviously we do need it. Otherwise we don't have innovation. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Right. So Natalie, I'm a bit curious to also explore. You have worked for more than 3 decades now across the sectors. How have you seen personally, innovation has been adopted on various sectors that you have worked, and how it has evolved over a period of time?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. I think, sometimes it feels like we haven't really progressed that much, if I'm honest. I think technologically we've progressed. I mean, look at all the new inventions of technologies that we have, and now we're in the world of artificial intelligence and everything else like that. But sometimes it does.
And you and I are talking from Lisbon and Kathmandu as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it enables amazing things, all this great tech. But, sometimes I think the people side of things, organizational development, culture, leadership, management, people doing stuff together, it sometimes feels it's a similar, 10 years, 15 years ago discussion when you're having that. Not all companies, of course, but those challenges still are the big challenges. How do we get people to think differently? How do we, stimulate people's mindsets to embrace change and do new things? How do we organize more efficiently to make sure our ideas get out into the world? What sort of processes can we put in place to enable it? And I think what's interesting too, in terms of the maturity of the innovation area, we can think of like sales and marketing, HR, finance. They all have quite strict disciplines, don't they, in organizations? And you have certain trainings that support those disciplines and functions. And innovation has sort of been sat within all of them and none of them sometimes, or across them. And it's had a very different type of trajectory of professionalization. I think what's exciting nowadays is that we are starting to see more professionalism in the whole field of innovation, and that innovation is a business process. It needs to be managed. It's not just about some person coming up with some idea who has the political or leadership clout to get behind it and make it happen. Because if that person leaves, then what? You've got to have a systematic way for the organization to have innovation in its DNA, and its ways of thinking, and its ways of working. And that needs support. It needs a professional support base. And it also needs a professional process. So even things like the new ISO standards that are coming in this year, in terms of the professionalization for innovation management, I think it's an exciting step forward, because at least it helps organizations start to think, are we really building the proper foundational structures and strategies to enable our organization to be more effective? So for the large companies, there are lots of challenges still around organization and people and process. I think for the smaller, more nimble, the entrepreneurial ventures that are often, pioneering, and they're very quick, they're very, agile, moving and changing, their sort of challenge tends to be more about, well, how do they scale? How do they grow? How do they then put process in so that they're not falling over with all the new ideas that are charging around all the time? Because they often tend to be full of a lot of igniters, identifier and igniter types. The people who are like, looking at the opportunity, generating the ideas, come on, let's go for it. And then they don't necessarily have the good foundation on which to build and which to grow. So, different organizations have, I think, quite different challenges, and some of them are still really facing those challenges that have been there for a long time, which is how do we best organize ourselves, and how do we get the talent of our people to be able to contribute to making new things work in an effective and efficient way.
Right, right. And how do you see the future of innovation evolving, particularly in light of, global challenges like sustainability and digital transformation?
Absolutely. Well, I think that is the big challenge. It's like innovation. Sometimes I think we just think, oh, innovation's great. It's exciting. It's new and, wonderful. But actually, a lot of innovation has a dark side to it. A lot of innovation needs challenging. It's not always, we don't always need to be innovating either, not in everything, and we need to be questioning things. That's why purpose driven innovation is so fundamental these days, because of the impact of what we're creating and bringing into the world. It's not just about, having loads of new stuff out there. Actually, sometimes it's about bringing things in and cutting back and paring back, and then really reevaluating what is it that we're actually creating, and just going for growth at the expense of what we're trying to, the bottom line impact, not just on the organization, on sustainable practices, really has to be thought through. So I think that this creates a whole nother layer of challenge and complexity for organizations that are really wanting to do things well and to really think about how they're doing it, as well as, just being sustainable as an organization.
And there seems to be a lot of pressure for the leaders as well these days, and then how can leaders really create environments that support and encourage innovation without risking too much of disruption? Because a lot of disruptions also equally going around.
Yeah, absolutely, and disruption's here to stay. It's I don't know if you know the sort of the three horizons sort of model, which I like very much. But I often think about the sort of the collapsing of these horizons, because it used to always sort of be, in strategic terms, we were thinking, oh, down the road, horizon 3, which you can't quite see it, but you can, it's there on the peripheral vision. Whereas now, you have horizon 3 technologies that are disrupting your horizon 1, and you have the new things. It's all sort of collapsing in together, and I think that makes a massive leadership challenge, because your everyday innovation, the things that you're trying to do just to keep alive, to keep the business ticking along, to keep things going, you put a lot of energy and a lot of attention on that, but you've still got to be thinking about these other things that are moving very fast. And it's not just about down the road. You can't just sort of say, well, we'll put that out there and think about that, next year in the strategy, away day. You've got to be thinking about that now. And so you've got to be wearing lots of different hats and being able to manage the complexity of today and tomorrow, and it's all merging into one is a real challenge. And so I think for leaders, it's being able to have even a structure like that and think about how much of my time, my energy, am I spending on the different types of horizons, to what end, and is there a better way, a different way, a more efficient way of managing that complexity, I think is really important. And I think too, just being able to take a deep breath, to be able to stand back. We talk a lot about mindfulness. We talk a lot about empathy in the workplace. We more sort of human-centered approaches to enabling our people to work better. And I think that's a really, really important point too. We've got to be taking care of ourselves, because there's so much, and it's relentless. It's relentless.
Absolutely.
And if you're in global business, you never switch off. I coach people who are like working round the clock. I mean, it's completely unsustainable. On Zoom calls right in the middle of the night, up early in the morning, doing, you're always on. And so there has to be some sort of way where we've got to learn a better way of managing global work and global interaction, particularly in the larger organizations, multinational organizations, because it will lead, and it is leading to massive burnout. So you've got both the personal and the professional, which are very, very important. The professional management of the complexity, and all the different people. And then you've got your own personal self as a leader and as a manager of others, and how you're looking after yourself and also your teams. So I think these are, they're not easy answers either. It's not like just take the pill, fine. You really evolve. You really have to think through how can I best create the space for myself to be the best person I can be in the work that I'm doing.
Right. And what are some of the most surprising or unexpected insights that you have gained about innovation throughout your career?
Wow, a whole career. I think, what's really interesting is that human beings are innately innovative. We've had to be. We would never have survived this far, this long, if we weren't innovating and doing new things and pioneering new things. And I think that, tapping back into that, to the innate aspect of the self that is open to, well, not necessarily always open to new things and to do that and to change, but change is a constant, and we are constantly having to adapt. I think it's just the acceleration now, which is so fast, which is difficult to manage for people. I think, one of the great insights for me, and I've worked all over the world with different cultures and different types of people, is how excited they actually get when they feel they can contribute their skills, their thinking with other people to collaborate and create new stuff, and to see that new stuff come to be in the world. I think there's something quite exciting about that. And I've had people, come up to me after events and say, I never really saw myself this way, and this has really changed. This has changed their life in a way, not just their work, but their perception of themselves as a human, and what that then means to them in terms of how they turn up, show up, contribute. So I think the personal aspect is huge, and then as people's openness to doing new things in different ways. In terms and working with other people in organizations where they feel an alignment of what's important to them and how they're contributing, that becomes very exciting. And I always get a lot of pleasure from seeing that happen in people's lives.
Absolutely. One stark, change that I have felt, Natalie, I'm sure you must have felt that way as well, is like, how closer the whole development has brought in the people from different culture, from different, representing different nations. It's like it has completely heading towards becoming a melting pot wherein all of us are interacting with every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very dynamic, and diversity is so important. Diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of people. And, that's one of the big messages of the 6 Eyes, is that diversity is the lifeblood of innovation. And we need to be encouraging that, because that's how, it's very much a team sport. It's not an individual thing. We need to be able to play to our strengths. And so we have like a strengths, assessment with the 6 Eyes that measures people's perception of, the degree to which they feel that they're strong at certain skills. So if you can identify with being a certain skill set or having a certain skill set, then you also know, well, actually, I'm going to play best here. It's like that relay runner, when you're in that relay race and you're running with the baton, and then you pass the baton on to someone that's better than you at something else. You're not trying to do it all yourself. And that is the optimal way of working, of being able to collaborate and know each other's strengths and know your own challenges and your own weaknesses. And to say, actually, I'm not the best person for this, but you are. And let's collaborate. Let's make a way of making this work. So I think we need to think more about people and how people work and how they think and how they collaborate. And I think we'll be a lot more effective then at getting our ideas out into the world.
So, Natalie, you are also working on this venture called Women Who Lead. What do you aim to achieve through this venture? Can you please share that as well?
Well, this is an interesting journey in itself. And I think, in a sense, going back to some of what I was saying about leadership, I started Women Who Lead back in 2012 when I was living in Singapore. And principally I started it because I was observing a lot of women that were juggling so much complexity in their work and in their home life, and so their whole sort of having to show up and have that space for themselves, to be able to also go to the next level of their own leadership. And I started to think, well, wouldn't it be great if I can create something that creates that space? Particularly, when we think of the question with the limited time that we have and the limited energy that we have, how can we make the most powerful difference with our life? So so that's always the calling card, particularly for the retreats that I run. It's like, okay, where are you now? What's going on in your life? Who are you? What is your inner purpose in terms of what you want to express, and where? And then we work on like a 2-day journey. So the first day is more sort of introspective, and the second day is more, okay, where am I going to show up next? What projects are emerging? What business ideas are emerging? What professional development is emerging? And then to have that space where women can actually support each other, a lot of peer support, and collaborate to enable these new things to come to be. So Women Who Lead has evolved over time to sort of the retreat aspect, the one-to-one coaching. So I do a lot of one-to-one coaching with executive women, and also masterclasses, where we can get people together and have time to really discuss their own challenges with each other, and have that sort of, that space, again, to create that facilitation where people can develop their own leadership capability, new skills, new ways of thinking, new connections, so people can actually help each other to get new things off the ground out into the world.
Right. And Natalie, looking ahead, what projects or initiatives are you most excited about in the realm of innovation?
Well, I think the things that I'm working on at the moment that are exciting me is obviously the Women Who Lead, because now I live in Portugal and I'm pioneering it over here with different groups of women. So I'm very excited about seeing that take off and take shape. I'm very excited about the whole sort of the certification model, where you train other people to enable other people, because that's how you scale. Otherwise, things just stay very small. And actually, I'm starting another program tomorrow, and that's going into the Middle East, which is very exciting because my book has been translated into Arabic. And so, actually taking, thank you. That, the book and the methodology into the Middle East is exciting, and that's something that I'm working on this year. So there are lots of new projects emerging, and that's sort of taking a lot of my time, and my interest right now is sort of growing and extending and helping to support people around the world in different ways to enable them to have more impact from their ideas.
Natalie, honestly, I wish you good luck for all the great work that you are doing, and thank you once again for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.